Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. We're here today with a community cast from Pharaoh of War. Going to be taking the Greenskins up against the Empire. Nice classic matchup here in the jungle. Let's take a look at the builds right away up front. 8 peak loons and some goblins ready to eat some charges. Also got biggins on the flanks here, a couple of savage orcs and a single black orc. Spider riders, a couple rank 6 trolls for extra leadership and melee stats. Look at this, also an orc shaman taking pot shots with Gaze of Mork. He's also got Fists of Gork, and here we go for that massive AoE attack buff. Night Goblin Warboss, Tormentor Sword Wa, and Spider the Bad Moon for charge defense. You can see some Empire Knights already charging in the front line here. We've got Pistoliers as well, a couple grenade launchers, lots of free company up in a vanguard. Boris is leading the way with a captain in the air, and a Celestial Wizard. Pretty interesting choice, not something you see every day for the Empire, but these Empire Knights are going to get a little bit greedy here. They got a great charge on some Goblin units initially, but Pharaoh's going to do a great job countercharging here with the Spider Riders to use the poison. Hits a Fist of Gork on these trolls as well, so they're going to run in there, do a ton of damage. Meanwhile, over here, the Captain dives in, and a Tormentor Sword gets popped right as the Wa gets popped, and immediately these trolls are going to run in here, the Savage Orcs, and keep in mind that Tormentor Sword is a melee attack debuff as well, so that Captain and especially these Empire Knights just getting absolutely crumped here. The Empire player reacting a little bit late with his infantry to be able to support with these great swords. Spearmen, Wolf Rider's going to come in here. Wolf Riders actually will lose to Free Company, straight up. Free Company have good enough stats and enough unit models. This is not a great fight, but at the very least, he can disrupt them, and especially on a rear charge like that, they'll do a lot of extra damage. With the support of the War Boss, be able to get some work done there for sure. That Captain's in trouble. Meanwhile, Boris is kind of picking away at the back line here, and a little bit unsupported, but a decent Wind Blast comes through, does a ton of damage to those Rusty Arrows there. He's got to be careful, though, Boris does, of those trolls. Those are a big problem for sure. You can see the Spider the Bad Moon there does give expert charge defense and also a bit of extra missile parry. Will help potentially against friendly fire or even those Free Company militia. But yeah, you can see the lines kind of reforming after that very swift initial engagement. Balance power still pretty even here. The 8 peak loons are going to get a little bit out of position, while they get mopped up by those great swords. And there's still a few kite units left for Empire. Still a few Outriders, Pistoliers, some Empire Knights kind of hanging back. A little bit of a swing and a miss there on that Thunderbolt. Boris is trying to chase off some of the Spider Riders. But one thing about the Empire, and this is something that I mentioned, I think Aerocrastic mentioned, and we kind of agreed on in the Meta Minutes podcast, is that the Empire, when playing as the Empire, you always have to play with support. Like, a lot of your units are not necessarily just going to win one-on-one with enemy units for the most part, like, unless you take the right engagements, right? So you really have to think about your engagements and play with support. And granted, that was a pretty fast engagement there in the center, but when you go with an aggressive Vanguard like that, you got to be ready to rush in with your infantry and support those engagements. Those Empire Knights took a lot of free damage there early on in the battle that could prove decisive into the late game. These Empire units are going to continue to kite, though. Get some good work done with the Free Company there. Pistoliers actually used up all of their ammo already, which is pretty easy to do, to be honest. Pistoliers have great rate of fire, but the grenade launchers coming in doing a ton of damage, and leadership damage, especially to the trolls. Harmonic Convergence on those great swords giving them 56 and 54, so they'll get a ton of work done in melee right there. That's a really nice use of that spell. However, Boris in the back line gets trapped in here. The Shaman casts Fists of Gork on himself and actually wins against Boris with the support of all this bow fire. We've got the Black Orcs there as well. Just a really bad situation for Boris to be in. He gets caught by the Tormentor Sword, and oh, here we go. Final zap. The Gaze of Mork, all the Daka. Oop, swing and a miss. That's fine. The arrows will shatter Boris anyway. Won't quite finish him off, unfortunately. But yeah, that is going to put a pretty decisive dent in the balance of power against the Empire. They still do have this very strong presence of great swords here, though. Actually winning against those trolls with the supporting fire of the Free Company there. And these grenade launchers can get some work done, but they definitely got their work cut out for them. Especially the Night Goblin Warboss has anti-infantry, armor piercing, and really good weapon strength, actually. 400 weapon strength in total, especially considering his small size, is pretty good. Plus 40 bonus versus infantry also means that he's going to hit really hard against those great swords. So him supporting the trolls with the Black Orcs, it's going to be way too much in the late game. I mean, these grenade launchers are going to try their best, certainly, and the Free Company Militia as well can get some good kind of Overwatch fire, especially on the trolls, but the Black Orcs are going to be a problem. The Great Swords, especially with Harmonic Convergence, would probably win there. I mean, without, they'd probably lose, but considering the War Boss is going to be here supporting, and you can see how the Great Swords kind of get caught up, they're going to actually get rear charged here by these Black Orcs, so very bad situation for them. You can also pop that Tormentor Sword potentially. The Celestial Wizard still trying to get some work done, but it looks like a massive Here We Go going to be popped. Yep, a huge attack buff, up to 76 attack on those Black Orcs, so basically anything they touch will be absolutely eliminated from the world. Empire Captain comes in, actually gets some pretty good hits on the War Boss. He's got a pretty good charge bonus, but from all the damage he took earlier, he really can't hang for too long. That Tormentor Sword gets popped, especially once that melee attack debuff rather, goes down. Going to be pretty one-sided, but yeah, those Black Orcs, the Harmonic Convergence on the Great Sword's actually helping them out quite a bit here. The Free Company, the grenade launchers, doing their best to pour in some supporting fire here, but it's a little bit too much, and those Great Swords just take a ton of damage fast. And that's basically the game. I mean, that's put a pretty heavy dent in the balance of power, and you can see all these other units are very close to critical army losses. A nice troll charge here. The Spearmen, it looks like, probably do get braced in time, but even still, I mean, they're not going to hang around. That's going to be army losses, probably. Oh, man, it's so close. Yep, there it is. So, a very nice fight, nice classic matchup, and kind of different builds on both sides as well. This sort of Celestial Wizard with Great Swords is an interesting combination, and obviously Windblast being pretty good against kind of light units. I definitely see what he was going for there. I definitely think Fenris just played a little bit overly aggressive with his Empire Knights. They got really good charges initially, but then, I mean, those goblins are kind of meant to soak the charges, right? So then the Spider Riders can come in poison, and with the poison, you know, these units will just kind of swarm and bring down those Empire Knights, so having those Spearmen in there and the Great Swords all at once, you know, you might have just got run over by one giant wah, to be honest. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I do like the pick of the grenade launchers here. They can get a lot of work done, potentially. Free Company are an interesting unit in this matchup as well. They do pretty decently without attack buffs without any buffs on either sides, I should say, against a good amount of Greenskins infantry. They're not necessarily going to win, but they'll trade more or less at cost from my experience, especially if they get some good volleys on the approach, and they're just kind of nice units to have layers of. They can fight in melee and shoot with a good volume of fire against stuff like trolls. Unfortunately here, I think the numbers game, I would say, is not necessarily in the Empire's favor here. You can see Pharaoh's got a much bigger army overall. The Empire Captain up on the Pegasus is one that I'm a little I don't know about that. I'd probably, if anything, take him on the ground, or even just cut him and go wider with more infantry and maybe like a couple more Pistoliers. I'd have to check to see. I don't remember exactly what his kit was, but I mean, it's minimum like 875 to about 1,000 for that captain up in the air. So if we have a look here, yeah, so I mean, fully kitted out, I don't know that he had all that. He's going to go over 1,000, but I mean, even just as he was, you could probably cut him down, and you do a couple different things. You could maybe bring, like, I don't know, 3 or so spear units, 2 to 3, depending on the cost. 1 unit of Pistoliers, maybe trade some cost around to get a 2nd unit of Pistoliers. If you're kind of going for that mobile kite style, the Great Swords are an interesting choice because they're kind of slow, and they do provide you a little bit of a backbone to come in, and I do see what he was going for there with the Celestial Wizard. But another thing to consider is the Light Wizard as well, as sort of a buff wizard, if you will. He's got Foz Protection and this Baroness Time Warp, of course, not to mention you can net things as well. Net can be a little bit of a trap spell sometimes. Against a swarming Greenskins build, though, you might want it just in case. I wouldn't ever overcast it unless you can, like, get a Lord separated and then dive him with a Griffin or something. But, yeah, Light Wizard is going to be comparable to the Celestial Wizard. You don't have the same AoE damage potential, but the buffs are going to be a lot more impactful. So if you want to go the buff route, I would definitely say go with the Light Wizard. The Celestial Wizard's okay, but I honestly think if you're going AoE damage, especially against the Greenskins, Fire is a much better option. Especially with Burning Head having that leadership component. It does a lot of shock damage potentially and does that leadership debuff. can route a lot of greenskin units very quickly. So, pretty fun build. I don't know, maybe not necessarily super ideal, but cool to see. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that. I know I sure did. So big thanks to Pharaoh for sending that one in. I'm actually going to be in Pharaoh's tournament this Sunday, so be sure to tune into that. That's it for today, though. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, all that jazz, and we'll see you next time.